Hi, everybody. Joe Chaffee here. Weather in 5 days and 5 minutes. And coming up tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, we will update you on Hurricane Beryl as it aims for Jamaica on Wednesday and then tracks further to the west northwest from there as we head through the 4th of July and going into the weekend. Plus, we'll have the 4th of July and weekend outlook for much of the U.S., including the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. So that's tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And that's at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. So let's take a look at Hurricane Beryl, which last night was a Category 5 hurricane with 165 mile an hour winds. It is the earliest that we have ever seen a Category 5 hurricane in the Atlantic Basin, and it continues to move to the west northwest. But one thing you may notice here as the loop goes that we start with that buzzsaw look from early this morning, and now it's getting a little bit ragged in terms of the satellite signatures on the western side in particular. And this is because we're starting to see Beryl moving into a less favorable environment. I think seen the peak of the strength of this storm. The question will be how much weakening is going to occur before it reaches Jamaica. And my thinking is that it'll still be a major hurricane when it reaches the island on Wednesday. And we do have hurricane warnings in effect for Jamaica, also for the Cayman Islands. And you can see the Hurricane Center's forecast track takes it pretty much over the southern portion of Jamaica as a major hurricane, and then takes it down a notch to a non-major hurricane when it reaches the Cayman Islands, and then into the Yucatan Peninsula Friday morning, and eventually winding up in the southwest Gulf of Mexico as we head into the weekend. So it's a little unusual to have a hurricane threatening uh, in the Gulf of Mexico or even in the Atlantic going into the 4th of July weekend. Labor Day weekend's a different story, but this is something certainly we're going to pay attention to. And you'll notice here on the intensity guidance how, yes, there are some models that keep this a major hurricane right through the next 7 days, but the vast majority of the models weaken it to a category 1 in about 4 days, and then assuming that it crosses land on the Yucatan Peninsula, weakens it even further to a tropical storm when it does that and takes it out into the southwest Gulf as a tropical storm. The hurricane tracking model guidance has been very slowly shifting further to the north when it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. We'll see if that plays. In the meantime, it remains tightly clustered for a track to make a passage, move over Jamaica, pass just south of the Cayman Islands, and then crossing over the northern portion of the Yucatan Peninsula. From after that, it becomes a bit more of a mystery, which I think we're going to probably speculate on tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Meanwhile, it's a good-looking day in much of the eastern part of the United States. We don't have any watches or warnings going on. There's heat and excessive heat in the lower Mississippi Valley down to the central Gulf Coast. We also have flood watches up for northern Missouri into southern Wisconsin. And we also have some excessive heat that is going on in California. But you can see the clear skies for the most part on the satellite from Maine down into South Carolina and North Georgia. You get some clouds as you go a little further south into South Georgia and parts of South Carolina. On the lower right, you can see the northern portion of Hurricane Beryl. And then across the plains and into the western lakes, you see the clouds there. And this is where we're going to be dealing with some rain and thunderstorms. And you see some of that on the radar as of 2:45 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got some rain over Michigan. And then we also have some rain now moving through Iowa and parts of Nebraska and over into Minnesota. There probably will be some severe weather issues tonight. Just quickly, we've got the Storm Prediction Center showing a slight to enhanced risk from southern Kansas northeastward into northern Missouri and southern Iowa. This comes with a 2 to 5% tornado risk for tomorrow. We're seeing two areas of slight risk, one from southern Missouri to southwest Ohio, the other from northwest Kansas and eastern Colorado northward up into parts of southwestern South Dakota and northeastern Wyoming. And this also has 2 to 5% tornado risk in the slight risk zone that's in the plains. And then for day 3, and this is the 4th of July. Now, they have general thunderstorms indicated for southern in central New England back to New York State, Long Island, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. A marginal risk for southwest Jersey, southernmost Pennsylvania to Virginia, back westward into the middle Mississippi Valley, where it becomes a slight risk. I tend to think that for most of the area for eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, that thunderstorms will probably be either scattered or isolated. When you get a little further south down into Maryland and Virginia and points west, this is where we might see a bit more in the way of thunderstorm activity and also some isolated severe thunderstorms in the marginal risk zone. As far as rainfall is concerned, over the next 7 days, half an inch to Long Island, an inch to an inch and a half, western New Jersey, southeast PA, and south central PA. Southward, 1.5 inches plus from Maryland and into Virginia. And of course, when we're dealing with convection, you could certainly see in local areas could wind up with double the amounts being forecast, up to a few inches of rain at least over the middle Mississippi and Missouri River valleys. Also in eastern South Dakota, across southern Minnesota into Wisconsin. This area here has been plagued by heavy rains this during the late spring and now as we moved into the summer season, and also some heavier precip being indicated from East Texas on eastward into Mississippi. So, where are we going with respect to the outlook? Well, we've got a dry air mass covering here in the east, and I think we get one more day of reasonable dew points, although temperatures will be coming up a bit tomorrow, probably into the middle and maybe even a few upper 80s for southern areas of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, maybe areas further north than that. And then we'll get into heat and humidity, nothing excessive. I'm thinking upper 80s to low 90s will be the general rule starting with the 4th of July and probably taking us through the weekend. Now, we do have, as I said, for late in the day, Thursday, the chance that there could be some scattered, isolated thunderstorms. We'll put that in the forecast. I think they'll be a bit more numerous as you go south to Maryland and Virginia, as I mentioned. And then as we move on into Friday, we'll throw in the chance that there could be some scattered showers and storms. You can see on the bottom middle here, that is Beryl moving across the northern Yucatan Peninsula and into the southwest Gulf. Saturday brings a weak front and an upper trough. Now, this, I think, may open the door to the possibility of some heavier thunderstorms, more widespread thunderstorm activity in the afternoon and evening, and maybe even the potential for some severe weather. We're going to be monitoring that possibility for later Saturday into Saturday night. It leaves us Sunday with still some leftover humidity, some sun, but maybe the chance that there could be a scattered shower or thunderstorm. Meanwhile, Beryl on the GFS anyway takes it inland between, just right over Brownsville, south of Corpus Christi, and then just starts moving it northward from there, bringing rains up into northern Texas early next week. But that's still a long ways off, and a lot of things can happen in terms of the track between now and then. So all of this, of course, is going to be in full view tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. So mark it down, and we will see you tonight.